Good evening. Welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we're on Dylan Carlson. How are you?
I'm good.
Dylan is got a lot, does a lot of soul stuff, but most famously known from Earth, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, it's my main,
and
my
actually,
main.
it lets me say to my fans and your fans and everybody out there saying, "Welcome to Earth." In this
Yeah.
interview, that haven't met you. Um, you you're a great guitar player and very interesting. And the word I hear a lot. I don't even know if you like this word, and it's hard because being in the industry of music, labels are out there so much.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's a bad word. I think I heard the word minimalist a lot with you,
Yeah.
and I kind of like that because I don't like hearing when people are talking about designing their houses or tiny houses or something and all that stuff. You're from Portlandia, so yeah, Portland, so you know the whole Portlandia stuff. I'm talking about
Well, Seattle
basic,
actually.
yeah,
So
Seattle. Sorry, but I was going to make a joke about Portlandia, put a bird on it. But to that point, I was going to say you put you. One of my favorite phrases: you serve the song with what you're doing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I the guitar players that I super admire.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like I love Hendrix, and uh, all the classic rock
Right.
greats, of every. But the guitar players that I super really admire,
Mm-hmm.
like I love country players, like Telly guys, but also I love the like R&B dudes, like
Yeah.
Reggie Young, Steve Cropper, the dudes from the High Band, like all that, where they're just like they get in the pocket, they've got like the little lick or riff, and they just are driving, like
You really
that's
you pound it out. I think people that don't, and we talk a little off the air, but it's like if you don't play music, playing music and listening music can be two drastic different worlds, and you can
yeah,
appreciate music way differently. If you hear a song, and you play it, you can learn something from it, you know,
yeah,
and um, and that's great. I mean, I remember like you're little, you hear a song, like it's a great song, and you hear like Back in Black, but then also you don't realize, or rock and roll, or something just generally off
yeah,
the air, how repetitive the riff really is. Because you don't think
yeah.
about it because it gets buried in the mix and you're hearing it, you're feeling it, you're hearing it, but you're not hearing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then when you hear no lyrics to it or no nothing else to it, it's just a song. You're like, man, it's repetitive. Like, well, most music is repetitive. You just don't know that.
No, that was my whole, conceptual uh thing from Earth was like, I'd hear songs and I'd hear riffs and like, I've always like, it's like the riff is like, you know, the hook, whatever you want to call it. And like, I love like, like Rush from like the first record to Moving
Right.
Pictures. But like I'd listen to them and like, man, there's so many good riffs. And then I was always like, what if they just stayed on that one for a
One riff.
while? You know, like,
Like that.
or
That song had 18 albums for me.
yeah, or then like, and then, that it's like, all the stuff that I loved growing up, it's like, it's all about, the riff, the hook,
Right.
you
But
know,
it's interesting you being into this more rock drum beat song. You pretty much went stripped down right from the beginning because Earth was what 80, 88, 89?
89, yeah,
Okay.
89 when we started. And then the first thing we did was 91, the EP. Um, yeah, and it's funny, the drum thing, we started with a drum machine because for some reason at that time, it was impossible to find drummers in Seattle. Yeah. And then it's funny because I moved to LA and then like everyone there was a drummer. So it's like, anyway, um,
I feel like there's a really good drum joke in there too, but I'm gonna let it lie.
there
Okay,
probably is.
a real good drummer joke, right? That the whole rule of having a drummer, you get a good joke in there on them, tease them.
Yeah. Wait, so basically, I just was like, I've seen this so many times where people are doing, starting a band or they want to do a band or whatever, and then they're always waiting for that like perfect moment or like the
Mhm.
perfect this guy or that guy and then they never do anything. And so I was just like, I'd been in a couple bands before that that, not really did much or, I mean, the one band, we played some shows and did a radio show at
Right.
Chaos and all that. But when I was doing Earth, it was like, well, I'm not going to wait around. It's like, I just need to do this. And so there was the drum machine and then no drums. And then, by Pentastar, I met Mike McDaniels and Sean McGillicott. And Mike McDaniels is, I still think, one of the most amazing drummers I've ever been fortunate enough to play with. So it was never really intended to be drumless, but that's how it worked out
Without
at the start.
without the pun of making it Earth sounding organic, but the sound
Yeah.
did kind of become organic in its own growth musically. You know.
Yeah. And then obviously we've had Adrian Davies on drums for the
Yep.
last 20 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was always intended as a band, but for various reasons over the history, wasn't, there was a band and then there was just me and then there was a band. So,
Well, you have been the mainstay. It's actually it's crazy. I've had a band I've liked as long as yours, and obviously I like a lot of music anyway. If I was a show, is I'd be like, "Damn you!" Now I feel old because I think back. You're like at 30. It's like 33 years ago. I'm like, I could have liked the band for
yeah.
33 years. That means I've been. Wait, oh man, where does the time
Yeah, no,
go?
it's
I mean,
no, it's
that
crazy thinking like the Earth 2 anniversary is coming up next year for 30 years. It's like,
yeah, because like really congratulates on that. That's pretty cool, man.
yeah, yeah. So,
Anything
but
special we gonna do for that?
there's some stuff in the works right now.
You don't have to spill the
Uh,
beans or anything. Just kind of curious if the fans
yeah,
got something to look forward
there's
to.
some stuff in the works. And then we're getting ready to drop uh Clyde Peterson's done this documentary that'll be called Even Hell Has Its Heroes. We're going to be dropping the soundtrack for that,
Oh, cool.
and I think we're announcing that tomorrow um, on on Bandcamp, I think, and
Very
then
cool.
and then the doc should drop sometime in March, I think, of
Yeah.
next year. So yeah, I know we just got off we did a U.S. tour, a short one a month that
Supporting
ended.
your 2019 album, right?
No, this was just because we hadn't done anything in 2 years. So,
Well,
uh,
I say that because a lot of bands have, well, COVID kind of like did that thing where you freeze. If you had an
yeah,
album right out then, they're like, all right, well, I still have half the world or I have half my audience or half my tour
yeah.
has
I mean,
not seen it.
I guess we lucked out because the the Full Upon Her Burning Lips, we toured the year it came out, 2019, and we hit it
Mhm.
hard. Like we started the tour, the U.S. tour the day it dropped, and then did Europe in the winter or November, December. So we got a lot. We had a lot of touring 2019. I mean, I'd been on the road doing a lot of stuff for the last 5 years before that because I was doing the solo stuff and I
Right.
did the collaboration with the Bug and we toured that a bit in Europe. So I was pretty much like going. So I had planned to take 2020 easy, but I didn't think it was going to be
Well,
that
let's be honest.
slow.
If you're an artist and you create that much stuff, do you think something came up? You'd be like, oh, I got to do it. Like, so maybe it was
Yeah,
better. It kind of kept you to your word. I mean, it's just
yeah.
cool
I
because you,
mean,
you really do. I'm saying you're always playing. You're always playing.
yeah. I mean, I love playing live. It's like, I mean, I think it's my favorite part of the whole thing. Like,
Mhm.
I used to be more of a studio guy. Like, oh, I love the studio, and now it's like I really like the live playing.
It's intense though, because when I watch you play, especially when you solo, obviously when somebody plays and if it's a rock band, you got a lot going on visually. But
Yeah.
different bands that aren't like, I'm a big fan of like Tweezle Zappa and his band. They're like, we're not jumping around. We're playing very intricate Zappa stuff. So there's different types of music and fans. When you do your show, you have all eyes on you and it's just you playing guitar. So it's like, it's so intense. You know what I mean? You're like, stop staring at me. Like it's really just all eyes on
Yeah.
you with nothing else, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, it's the solo thing is very different from Earth. Like Earth, I
It's
mean,
probably
Earth.
one of the bravest things a musician can do, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, the only thing braver, I think, is, I mean, that's why I really respect singers because there's just nothing between you and them. Like, at
Right.
least with the guitar, you kind of have a little like
Well,
prop
you,
or
you got the
whatever.
joke if you hit it wrong, the wrong note, you play twice and it's not a mistake and stuff. If a
that was one
singer's
of the,
like
yeah,
singing and your
you're
voice
just
goes, you're screwed.
out there. So I have to give the respect to the singers. I guess that's why you have to put up with, lead singer syndrome. Although I never really had to worry about that.
No, you haven't,
So,
not with your music.
but
Because
but
there
yeah,
is clips out there for people to see if they haven't gotten a chance to see you. At least just I think they do. You sound good quality too out there of you playing it. I'm like, man, it's just so intense because you can see a shot the size of the hall, and it's just you,
yeah,
and you're just
yeah,
playing, and it's such an intense moment to have
yeah.
that
I
many
mean,
eyes on you.
Earth was a good sort of like the early days of Earth was a good. Uh, how should I put it? Made me learn to, I guess, be resilient and not flex about people too much because
Mhm.
when we first started, like most people hated us. Let's just say like
Well, you started at a very interesting time though too. I mean, so we're talking about being fans of 80s rock and stuff, you and I, and 70s rock, but
yeah,
clearly that's not the sound that you sound like. So in a way, your music also at that time would seem like you're flying the flag against it, even though you weren't against it. It was just what you were doing. And then of
yeah,
course, then everyone knows Nirvana, and everything. So there's all this different stuff going on, and it sounds everyone sounds totally different. So finding a niche audience out of all that sound was I
yeah.
think a
No,
talent.
I mean, it was a strange time. I mean, we were kind of, I always view us as like the redheaded stepchild of Seattle because I mean, I guess the only similarity was like, oh, it's like heavy music with
Right.
distorted guitars, but yeah, people. I mean, it was like things got really weird when suddenly Seattle was like the thing. Like, I mean, I remember this one show, and it was funny because we were opening for some like weird trad metal band. Um, I can't even remember who it was, but just like a classic,
Right.
metal band. And and the audience just hated the fuck out of us. Like it was just dudes like flipping me off the whole time, and one guy was just yelling "fuck you" at me the whole time. Um, but then it was crazy because MTV was filming it because it was
Oh, because of the
Seattle,
scene. Because of the scene. Yeah.
and because Sub Pop had like you know. And then right after the show, we get like interviewed by Tabitha Soren, and it's
No
like
way.
totally bizarre.
Oh
And
my God.
then because they didn't get footage of like Bruce and John, they booked another show at some weird bar that wasn't even really a venue, so we could play, so Bruce and John could be filmed watching us, and it was just like it was like really, I mean, that's how weird Seattle got. Like, just, like a band that would, I mean, I knew we would, I don't think we were ever going to do the jump to a major or anything like
Well, the
that.
music wasn't designed for that though, and I think that's part of the problem. I think a lot of label, you got well, in any scene, the bands got labeled to be a certain thing. Even a hair metal band, a lot of those bands were more bluesy, and it was the clothes they wore at the time. You're wearing a
Yeah.
flannel shirt. it's cold. It's cold in Portland. Like I wear a flannel
Yeah.
shirt. I don't work for Sub Pop. That's not a dig.
No.
Whatever
No,
you're wearing thing. So it's a regional thing partially, and it's partially how you
yeah.
dress in the time. So let's take that out of the equation, and then like what
Yeah.
kind of rock band were you? And then all the bands that got mixed together as being grunge. A lot of you guys had a lot of different sounds though in that area, like
Oh no,
really
I
different
mean,
sounds.
yeah, I don't think there was. I don't. I mean that's why I've never really paid attention to like labels, micro genres, and all that. That's all just marketing.
Yeah.
Like you. I mean, it's weird to me. Like a lot of the seeing like new bands, like it's like they decide, oh, we're going to be this before they've even like played.
Right. It's weird
Almost
to hear
like
that. You hear people saying like, "I love grunge music," and you're like, "Oh my god, it wasn't even really considered grunge." I don't even know who came up with that term. Like every band that's in grunge says, "I'm not grunge." So have a
yeah.
fan that says they like grunge. You're like, that's literally
Well, it's funny. It was used. I remember the first. It was a review, an enemy of Mudhoney, and used to describe them. That was
right.
it. And then it
Awesome.
got turned into this whole like you know genre or whatever.
Well, I think
But it,
singles kicked that off too.
yeah, it was just like
You
you
know,
know,
there was a movie with a look in it already prepackaged. It had a great
yeah,
soundtrack because it had all the good bands. Everybody has
yeah,
because every the good thing about that was every band sounded differently. I still love. I didn't give up on my metal bands, but the thing with the area, everybody had a good sound, a different sound. I love that.
yeah.
The labels I
Well,
could do
and then
without.
I think it's funny because they all kind of got closer to metal
Yeah,
at the moment they got.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
A lot
it's
of them
funny.
did.
I mean, I was always like a metal kid. Like, I mean, I mean, Slayer, you know, I mean, that was like the original concept for Earth was like, oh, Slayer meets Lamont Young. Like, that was just my like, oh,
That's a
my
cool one.
concept. So,
Well, because you hear
um,
Earth, you think it's going to be a hippie band. It actually wasn't that the original Sabbath, right? Wasn't Sabbath going by the
yeah, that
name at
was
one
the
point
name of
too?
Sabbath. Apparently, it was also a Bruce Springsteen had a high school power trio that played Cream covers
I
that
didn't
was
know that.
also called Earth. I later learned.
I'm sure there's a lot of million bands. It
But
just whoever makes it with a name is the one who wins.
yeah, I mean, it was the name that I had a bunch of different names, and then the only one that the other two guys I started Earth with, who immediately were like, we didn't stay around very long. Uh, that was the only name we could all agree on. So that's how it happened. And
From
I had learned
promotion's point, it's good though. We live on the earth.
yeah,
It's a great
yeah. I
for
mean,
promotion. It's great.
I had learned not to have a long band name because my second band before Earth had a ridiculously long name, and so I was like, okay, this time keep it simple.
I like it, and I like the feel. I like the fact you see Earth, and it's very earthy, but at the same time, it feels like it's like a dichotomy because you can do here. There is a metal influence. I hear it as a metalhead, and for the same time period, also with the slow burn to it, it is aspects to it, so it doesn't feel like it's really Earth. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the '70s
Yeah,
Earth. It's like it's Earth, and you're like, oh, that's not what I thought I was going to hear, which kind of mixes it up a little bit and
yeah,
keeps it fresh. When
yeah.
you went for the time
And
period,
then
though, yeah, sorry.
oh yeah, and I mean, I think originally like the first people that kind of got us, it was either metal people or like noise people. So that was
Mm-hmm.
sort of like our first. That seems to be like how, and then later, you know.
That's my noise music. I get it. I can appreciate it. That's where I draw the line. Like I can see where they could like you, but you're not though. You're still your music. It's just a
No,
different speed.
it's funny. It doesn't really happen so much anymore, but a lot of times, like on tour, I'd be at the merch table and like some dude would come up and start like name dropping all this noise stuff. And I'd just be like, yeah, I don't know who those people are. I'm just like, I'm a fucking rock dude. I love rock and roll. People ask me, "What do you play?" I'm like, "I play slow rock and roll." Like, I don't. I know rock and roll is like not a good word anymore, apparently, or something. But
Really?
like,
I use that for everything
I don't
now.
know, like people think you're like corny or something if you say rock and roll, but like I'm sorry, like I, you
I would
know,
call you rock and roll to Rat, to Slayer. Everything's rock and roll to Chuck Berry. Everything's
well,
rock and roll. I
that's
think
what
you gotta stop
even heavy
labeling.
metal now has become so weird to me because like back when I was young and going to shows, it's like all the chicks went or women, excuse me, I guess I'm not supposed to say that word anymore either, but they would all go to the Slayer shows because that's where all the dudes were, and all the dudes would go to like the hair metal shows because that's where the ladies were, and it was all metal. And then this whole weird like
Division.
parsing into like
Well, I think it got crazier, and everything kind of gets watered down. But surviving through the '90s afterwards, after grunge came through, and then they made it grunge. That was the industry thing, and then heavy
yeah,
metal got too big because it was copying itself. It was eating itself alive. And
yeah,
then when the originality kind of got drenched out of those two things, the '90s got really weird for music.
oh
So to be
yeah,
a
the
band that
90s.
survived through the '90s, I mean, there's some good songs, but man, the dress code, I couldn't. I don't know, man. It felt like I was
Yeah,
back in '70s school. I'm like, come on, I thought we worked past this already. You know,
yeah.
I'll rock back any style, but that style. I don't even. There's some outfits, man, in the '90s. I
Yeah,
don't even know. Um,
yeah, the late
I'll
90s.
follow it.
Yeah, the
Well,
late 90s is weird.
it
Um,
was, it really was. But the fact that a band like yours stuck to it, and kept to your
yeah,
art, it says a lot.
yeah. I mean, I had a break uh, in the late 90s. It wasn't intentional, but um, the had a few years off, and then yeah, and then when I started doing it again, uh, it's funny. I didn't actually intend to do start doing Earth again. I hadn't had a guitar in like a few years, and I just got a guitar because I wanted to play guitar again.
Wait, what? You
Um,
just played no guitar for a couple of years?
but yeah, like 97 to about 2001. Yeah, I
How does
wasn't.
that
I
even
just
happen if you're a guitar player, not even in a band, not to have one in your house to noodle on?
well, I was pursuing
Oh, you're
other
that.
activities.
Oh yeah, that you talking about that period?
Yeah, the
Okay,
lost years.
the lost years, yeah, the
But,
3 day weekend.
yeah, yeah, and
I get why.
various.
Okay, I get where you were not able to during your holiday weekend to noodle on the
Yeah,
guitar. I hear you,
yeah.
but
So
thankfully you cleaned that up and you got past that, and that's why I'm
yeah,
just glad
no, yeah, I was, yeah, well, it's funny because I actually moved to LA in like 97, and then uh, in 2000, I guess the state of Washington wanted me back and had a place for me to stay. So I was back in Washington, and um, and so
people have
then
said that though. They've actually said that they can't believe it's that you cleaning up though, moving past that has been inspirational for a lot of people. You know,
yeah, I
that's got
mean,
to be a good thing to take out of that. And we're gonna blame you doing that on the fashion of the '90s. Okay, we'll just put that out there. That's what drove you
yeah,
to it.
yeah. So, but yeah, then I got a guitar and I started playing again, and I met Adrian, and we started playing. I was fortunate enough. I had a job at a frame shop doing like framing, and they had like a warehouse in the back, and the one of the guys that owned it used to be a drummer. I mean, he was still a drummer, but didn't play
Right.
professionally anymore. And so he was like, "Yeah, if you guys just want to jam in the back when the off hours, it's cool." So yeah, and then and then it's funny because I did some interview with like this website, like dometal.com or something out of Portland. And these two, Randall Dunn, who, later produced some of our records, and a friend of his, John Schuler, like saw it. And like I was at work and they walked in and were like, "Is Dylan Carl?" Or they were like, "Are you Dylan Carlson?" And I was kind of like, "Who wants to know?" And then they were like, "Oh, we want to do an Earth show," and I was like, like, why not? Like,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of how it. And then it just started. Like it kind of, you know,
And now it's to the point where you don't you that there's no day job. You're full time music, which is got to be nice
yeah,
as a creative source to be like, oh, so you've literally taken the worst end of it, beating out your demons, and to the point where you're you know doing it
yeah. No,
100%
I
now.
mean, I've been very fortunate that I mean, I music's pretty much been my only job. Um, I mean, it is a job, but it's also what I
I
love.
get what you're saying, right?
You know,
I get what
it's
you're
like,
saying,
but since like 2009, so yeah, I've been really. I mean, I have been fortunate. You know, I made it out.
right?
Uh, I got a second chance. Like most people don't vanish for 4 or 5 years and have anyone care that they're back. So yeah,
You came
no,
back better actually. It's like you did the reverse. Like people usually have a big career,
yeah,
crash, and then when they come back, it's not as big, but they're happy because they're healthy and they're
yeah,
creating. You actually were kind of a smaller scale,
yeah.
crashed, came back, and you're probably even more successful than you were even before now.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I feel like it's funny. I feel like you know, it took a while for like the world to catch up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not to,
Well, you can listen to more stuff now too, though. I think record labels and radio stations and everything else was so corrupt, you know.
yeah,
And it was. The people that don't know, I mean, when I was in college, I would just go for music and recording and video, and that's one of the things. The first thing you learn about in radio class at radio, they just talk about coming in with a big old bag of cocaine or a big bag of money and trade off and this and that. So placing on these charts was insane back then. Now
yeah,
you and I are talking, and then whoever wants to watch this is going to watch this. We put
yeah,
up little hashtags and names on it. You can share it on your socials. I share it on mine. You build a
yeah.
very natural audience, and there's nothing exchanged except two guys for the love of music from the '70s and the '80s, and a fan of your music. That's it.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Everyone acts like, oh, the payola thing vanished when they charged Alan Freed in the 50s.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it just kept going. It's like, I mean, it never changed. Like, it just never changed. It's just like that. Like most things, it's like, oh, we'll hold up this guy as the bad guy, but we're still doing
Yep.
this.
But it's different now. The model, this is the last model. I think Napster came in, and it was a weird thing, for taking the music from people. It was a weird thing. Lars got
Yeah,
hit for fighting for the artist. No one really kind of joined him. It was hard for a lot of people that like owned all the music to begin with and didn't have it. So it was
yeah,
like it was a weird. No one actually a battle with that. No one was going to win because everybody had an opinion on it
yeah,
and whatever. But that was the first time it was out there, and somebody took the sword for it. We all moved forward from that. We learned from it. But then the next thing was going to be the record labels and finally breaking free. And hopefully the younger generations were watching behind the music, realizing my 18 Lamborghinis, my manager has it. Next year, my album's going to be gone, and I'm going to be working at Best Buy like
well,
everybody else.
that's the thing is the artist is generally the last to get paid, and then second, like all those free dinners and free lunches and like all the shit that you're paying for all that. Like you are literally paying for all of that, like that's so it's not like they're treating you.
Yep.
You're paying. They're
And
paying.
the best stories were the ones to be like you like Guns N' Roses. Like I don't know if I'm using as a point of reference or like for 1 year they kept milking the label before they signed them and then went to another label. Like that's the
Yeah,
only people that got ahead was when a band could milk the label before they signed
yeah,
and then they went elsewhere. Those are the only ones making anything. Um,
yeah. And I mean that's the thing too is like there just isn't that kind of
no, and it's
money
not that
and
world anymore. And now radio's
well,
last. Is what I'm saying. Radio's not the
yeah. I
same
mean,
anymore.
I mean now it's like I mean this is a world that I'm not really part of. You know what I mean? I'm but like if you look at like the biggest artists, like say you're you know, like you're, like Jay, like you know, Travis Scott sells McDonald's, and it's no shade on Travis. Like, do your thing. You know, Beyonce and Jay-Z sell Tiffany's. Rihanna sells underwear. You know, it's not, they're not making money from music.
Right.
They do music and then they're selling brands or whatever. That's where the money comes from in the that tier of the music industry. It's not about selling music anymore because everyone just streams. They're not selling physical product anymore. They're not, it's just like it's like you're selling
You're a soundtrack to a brand.
brand. Yeah, you're just a branding platform at
Yeah.
that point. And you know, whatever, you know, more power to them. Glad they made it. Glad they're successful. But like, you know, it's not like I'm not saying
No, no, no.
they're
But
bad, whatever. I'm just saying that's the model now is to be a branding platform,
well,
not
to be a big rock star, and I
yeah,
say rock star, I hate the term rock star because I hate. Worst of all, when someone's a hairdresser and they go, "You're a rock star." No, you have a good haircut. You're not a rock star. Zeppelin, the Ride
yeah,
House, that was a rock star. We're not. You guys are not a rock star
yeah,
if you have a good haircut. But to that point, a band at your level can do better with a small audience supporting you through merch and physical things and sales, albums and shows. I would say a
yeah,
thousand than you aiming to shoot out to 10,000 people that may not even see you. You get the same people coming in into a repeat thing. You'll get better
yeah,
support to have more of a
yeah.
fine tuned audience for bands
Yeah, I
of
mean,
your size.
I don't, you know, I don't need that. I don't need, you know what I
No,
mean?
but to that point, you are an artist, and there's no reason to make money. And I always say it's like I hate to people like, oh, this band's getting together again now. They're cashing out, cash this. Dude, you need to make money. No one's giving artists
Yeah, it's
401ks and
not,
this and that.
we're
Why
not,
can't you make money?
it's, yeah, it's not like, I mean, it's like we don't live in in countries that pay artists. You know, we're not Canada, we're not Europe. It's the United States, and it's like it's everything in the US is pay to play. I mean, you gotta fill seats, sell shirts,
Yeah,
like that's just it. Or just I mean, you could also there's also alternatives, but like, you know, you're gonna, you know, work a day job or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like there's
yeah.
alternatives, but it's like there's no one handing out subsidies or whatever. This is the US. This is
Or health
America.
insurance and
Oh
artists should
yeah.
make a good chunk of change. So when they do retire, they have health insurance.
Yeah.
People that go to work and they're like, oh, band's selling out, or
Yeah.
oh, this album sounds whatever. I'm like, you're literally going to work, you have 401k, you have health care, and you're complaining about
Yeah.
a band doing whatever. Dude, seriously,
Yeah.
let the
Yeah.
artists
I
do what
mean
they want to do, you know?
yeah, there is no retirement,
And,
you
and
know.
one of the big things, that's one of the things that got the show started was, you know, I'm not in the music field. I started in the music field. I know how bad it was. I've changed over the years and I'm okay. So this show is like literally not. I make no money. This is like cost me money. It's a not profit. It's literally about telling people check out the artists during COVID now and continually go to the sites, buy merch off the sites if you can. Go directly to the artists if you can because at a web
Yeah.
if you're in a show, it's good. But I'm telling you right now, the venue, especially depending on the venue, going to get a percentage of it,
Yeah.
not including tax. The artists can make more money off of their own site or
Yeah.
directly to the artist. So I'm just
Yeah.
saying, support the artists as much as you can, and that's always been my
Yeah. No, I
mantra.
mean that's the thing. It's you know, and I mean that's the thing. It's funny too, like when I'm like, cause like when I play shows, like I always, you know, there's some nights where or an off night where maybe I don't do it, but generally, like I always go out to the merge table. I always like talk to people, like, and like it's it's like I see other bands where they like are really shitty, you know, like people and like their fans and stuff, and
Yeah,
I'm just it's like I am mad grateful and mad appreciative of everyone because, you know, like if it wasn't for them, like, you know, I'd probably be, you know, on the streets or in jail. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
I agree. I see it all the time. I see younger, and I say younger. I'm going to say younger, as in newer time experience bands are have different requests or even different reactions to me than bands like you or Stephen Piercy or other ones that are gracious and have had time and really care about the fans and are just regular guys that just go out and do their type of music. Where some of these other bands are just think there's something that they're not because of a certain number of streams or because somebody put them on their show for a week. And they have
Yeah.
no clue in the long game that you're just a person and your fans will kind of help you and enjoy it. But
Yeah.
you're not better than anybody. You just have a
No.
really cool job and you have some great talents that a lot of people like, but you're not better.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's
And that's what people are forgetting. I think the newer bands are not.
yeah.
I just
Well,
went to a show. I saw this
I don't.
recently.
I think so many of the newer bands are okay. It's like my friend Mark said. There's two kinds of people that do music. There's people who do music because they want to, because of what they think they can get out of it.
Hmm.
And then there's people that do music because they have to.
Yeah.
And like the good music is made by the people that have to.
Hmm.
Whereas like the other stuff, they're not in it for because they love it. They're not in it for the long game. They're not in it. They're just, you know, whatever. They're trying to get whatever it is that they
Right.
think they can get doing this rather than like,
We just see artists that are successful now that have popped off of music or rap or whatever after one or two successful albums, and they branched off into movies and this and that, and they don't do music anymore.
yeah,
I can see you doing both, saying I want to do other stuff because I'm an artist, and some
yeah,
artists will do what, and they go back and forth. They go between the two,
yeah,
and that's great. But some of them just will never go back to. They're like, I'm done. I'm doing TV. First time I'm doing
yeah,
this check. Like you're like, well, clearly
yeah.
that wasn't.
No,
It
well,
was
I mean,
something you enjoyed.
yeah,
You know,
there's just stupid money in TV and film, so it's kind
there's nothing wrong with stupid money either. You know,
no, no. I mean, uh, but
stupid money
but
gives you
yeah,
certain freedom as an artist too. Um,
yeah, no. I mean, that's the thing.
as an artist, though, right now, like where are you balancing as we, as we're talking about this other great stuff? Because you have this newish album out right now, the soundtrack type album, and your solo stuff. How are you going to balance it now for like the year coming up? Like, what can people expect from you and the band separate and together? You follow me?
Well, we this last tour we played two new songs in the set, so hopefully be doing a new record sometime in the recording it sometime in the next year. I mean that probably won't be out till I don't know 2024 maybe. Um, but yeah, most like I said, we've got the doc thing and the doc soundtrack, and then and then something around Earth 2 most likely. But yeah, I mean, probably trying to do a new record. Um,
Well, you'll be on the road a lot next year, so people will be able to see you guys.
yeah, we don't have anything booked at the moment, but we'll see. I mean, that's the thing about touring too, is like touring is,
Weird.
yes, it's like it's now you have to like tour. Like in the old days, the more you toured, the better it got.
Mhm.
And now it's like if you tour too often, people are just like, oh, well, they were just here,
Yep.
So it's kind of like I feel
Phasing
like you
out.
have to tour smarter. And then I feel like I mean it depends on what states you're in, but
Yeah.
there's still a lot of people that are spooked and
Yeah.
like won't come out. They like they they like I wish the lockdown never ended, but anyway, I won't get off on that subject.
I get you. Well, it's hard. I mean, you know,
um,
groups of people to begin with has always been kind of weird. There's always so many other events that are happening. Groups of people makes it hard. It's
yeah,
harder to get people just to go to a show than throwing in a virus and then throwing in people with guns and everything else. Like there's so much other stuff going on. Just getting
Yeah.
people to leave their house is a challenge. You don't need it, and
Yeah.
everything else makes it that much harder for an
Well,
artist.
it's weird, except it seems like for these like festivals, like I feel like it's sort of like this whole like playlist culture just loves the festivals, which I don't know
Yeah,
why, because festivals I think are tedious most of the time. I mean, it's just I mean, we
it
played
feels
a
like a
few.
young person's game to me because I'd be like, this is
Yeah,
a lot of
no,
shows. Now I'm like, I'm good for like two bands and let's break it up because I get tired. I need a
no,
lawn chair. I
I
can't do that.
No, I see. It's like there should never be more than a two band bill. That's just it. Like I don't want to play with another many more acts, and it's just like a two band bill. I'm good, and that's all that. It's like this whole like I'll see shows where there's like five bands. I'm like, just call it a festival. Just like it's
Well, I would
like
think the music too, like raves, obviously, it just could be like one song. You would know the difference. And you could dance all night. It depends, but like with your style of music, if you have too many of the bands, you're gonna get this kind of thing where you're just gonna eventually get fatigued. You know,
yeah, no. I mean that's what I'm.
like a sonic fatigue because of certain frequencies. You're gonna get tired ears.
Yeah, no. I mean it's like as I always say, that one of the second rule of rock and roll, always leave them wanting more.
Yeah.
Um, don't
Well,
over.
I think sludge and like speed metal and doom and like the slower and the really faster is exhausting to your like
Yeah,
because of what you're hearing for so much.
yeah,
You need a break from it. The other
yeah,
music's you have like different varieties where it's different frequencies and stuff, so it's a little different for people and they're dancing or whatever. But those two musics, it's like it's a lot
yeah.
on your
No,
ears.
I mean it's being yeah. You want to play long enough that people are happy, but not
Yeah,
like punish them.
cool.
And people got to get home. You got to get to the next town. Like there's a way to do it, I guess.
And
But,
they're getting older. I think if that's for younger people, and it's good, but and I don't know if hopefully we got some people on here that have never heard of you or checked you out. So I definitely
yeah,
want people to check you out, and I like to have you come back again. Maybe when your soundtrack comes out, we'll break it down a little bit if you want to come back. This is a lot of fun having you on.
cool.
You're on.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put the links under there. You're on Instagram. You guys are on Facebook. You guys your website. So people go there.
yeah,
Obviously merch, and you're on all the platforms for sound. So if you're on Spotify or iTunes, or you're easy to track
yeah,
down too musically.
yeah, yeah. And then we're just getting the YouTube sorted because we don't really have a channel yet, but we're going to try and roll that. But you can, yeah, if they're looking for us on YouTube, it's usually good to put Earth Seattle, or
Okay.
otherwise you get or Earth Seattle Band or something, because otherwise, like Earth, you get like oh, it's a
Yeah,
sunrise.
it's noisy on YouTube. You might want to put yourself a little marker on there. Grab your little
Yeah,
pieces of sand because it's it's how it is.
but yeah, and then if people are coming to the band for the first time, maybe I'd recommend like the Bees Made Honey and the Lion Skull record.
I
That
love
seems
that
to be
album. That's my favorite album actually.
yeah. I think that's our most. I mean, it's not tooting my own horn, but the people that I got to play with on that record are
Yeah,
excellent. So it's a good record to start
they're all
with.
good. Just for some reason that record just hit me at that right time, and I'm like, yeah, you know,
No, that record was, I mean, I love that record too. I mean, it was a really, I don't know, it was an inspired moment. And then,
yeah.
getting to play with Bill Frisell and like who I've admired for
But I
a
put your
long
last
time.
album too, right next to it. Maybe sometimes side by side. Maybe a little like I really dig that one a lot too. As much, so I've been playing that one a lot too.
Yeah, that one I like too. I mean, it's just, I mean, that one is like, I had really enjoyed doing, and it was really just stripped down.
Yep. And we're talking
Really,
about entry ones because the other albums are good too. But we're talking about probably these are the albums that are
yeah,
probably
to
the
get to
easiest for
get into
consumers,
it.
right?
Yeah, and
Because you've
then
got a lot of stuff out there.
yeah,
and your
I
sound goes deep,
tried.
and you're solo too, and they can get your solo stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think the only one that's not available is the Latitude session, which I need to figure out what to do with that one because that label doesn't exist anymore. So,
If you have a
but
copy of it, you can just download it and put it up on YouTube. So a lot of bands
yeah,
do,
yeah. I'd
so people
like to
can
get
listen to it
that.
and stream it off of YouTube.
Yeah, I'd like to get that one out there.
You know,
Anyway,
cool.
well, thank you so much, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. This has been awesome.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We'll have you back on again. Okay. And
Okay, cool. I'm
people,
down to do that.
yeah, and people check him out. You'll definitely be happy and pleased and surprised. He's definitely it's a little different. It's not your normal, but nothing is normal's boring. You know, go through the whole album. You're like, oh, I get it. What I'm saying is not normal. Is you're not going to hear on your radio station. It's going to be something
Yeah.
that's liked and independent, and that's what you want. So I thank you, and everybody check them out. Thank you.